Jeff Archer, I don't have my notes, but aren't you a product engineer for ArcGIS endorsement?
That's a great question, Michelle.
Hold on. He's changed titles many times in the last couple of years.
Most days I don't even know what my title is.
He's changed titles several times.
I joke all the time that I say yes. That's my thing.
And I've known Jeff for a couple of years, and he wears actually many different hats and teaches on many different platforms of Esri. So today, I guess, is ArcGIS Indoors, and that's the new flavor.
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction, and it's great to be here, Michelle. This is my second CFTA, and I'm going to go Bob Barker style here. All right, there we go. So I'm here today to talk to you guys a little bit in the first half about a little bit about Esri and ArcGIS. I know we have a lot of you use our software, and thank you for that. And hopefully we can kind of inspire you to think about what's next and kind of continue on that great presentation that we just saw, the last keynote. And see if I can figure out, here we go. So our slogan is the science of where. And what we mean by that basically is, we have all these great things that GIS has always been known for, data management, visualization, analysis, and increasingly we're starting to apply those in kind of new concepts. The idea of planning and design. We have a product now called GeoPlanner, where you can take a geographic approach to planning new development or where to place a building so it'll have the maximum impact, factoring in population and traffic and those kinds of things. We also have a concept known as geodesign. We have a geodesign summit at our headquarters in Redlands every year. It brings together a lot of thought leaders in various industries and come together in ways that, again, we can kind of take the geographic approach to designing new environments both for humans and also for animals and any other inhabitants of this and other planets. It's really a pretty amazing thing, especially when you see JPL planning trips to faraway places in the solar system using our software. That's really pretty inspiring. And the idea behind this is we want to empower people to make better decisions and make those decisions make more efficient action. That's really what we strive for. And locational intelligence and what we refer to a lot of times as a geospatial index or the geographic approach to solving problems, it helps us understand pretty much anything. And one of my favorite professors at Texas A&M University, there it is, he talked me into transferred from meteorology to geography, and that was the only department I visited because he told me, studying geography is a license to study anything. And, I consider myself an intellectually curious person, and, I found that to be true. I came to Esri thinking it would be a few years, and, I'm hooked, just basically because I get an opportunity to come here to things like this and talk to you guys about the problems that you're trying to solve. Next week, I might meet with a 4-star general or, somebody from the Marine Corps and talk about the problems they're trying to solve. The next week after that, I might meet with people who are looking at how we might help elephants migrate in Africa. So I never really know from a day-to-day basis what I'm going to be working on. It keeps my job interesting, and again, it's one of my favorite things about geography and working with GIS. So with that in mind, our work at Esri, obviously we're a technology company. We want to make useful and accessible technology for people to be able to solve problems and make better decisions. We also want to support our users. I think a point of pride for us is, anybody that's ever been to the Esri User Conference, we have that conference and we bring people together and we listen. We listen to people like you and the problems that you're trying to solve. And we take that to heart and we use that to design, not only our software, but the way we design our outreach programs, supporting things like CFTA. And in the process, we like to think we've made a pretty neat software package, ArcGIS. So a little bit more about ArcGIS here. It's a comprehensive geospatial platform. So it's not just a box you get anymore. So we've kind of rolled with the IT innovations over the past several decades and really come up with something that's a really integrated, open, services-based platform. So this allows people to organize and manage all aspects of geographic knowledge. So not just data, but using that data to come up with information products getting them in the hands of the people who need them to make those informed decisions and to take more efficient action. So you can bring in all kinds of different things, the content, the people, and allow them to collaborate through a part of the platform that we refer to as the portal. This could be something that is inside your office, or you can use ArcGIS Online in the cloud. So it also empowers all aspects of the organization. We're trying to get away from the GIS department being the black box where people say, hey, I need a map of X, I need a map of Y, and then get something back. Geography is really starting to embed itself into the way things happen across an organization. And we like to think that we had something to do with that. We think of ArcGIS as a system of record. You can use the X, Y, and Z index to kind of tie together data that doesn't necessarily on the surface seem to have a geospatial component. And you can use that location as an index to build intelligence between these different stacks of technology and information. It's a system of engagement. The applications that we provide, the SDKs that our partners and our customers use to make compelling applications that people use in their day-to-day activities, really engage them, not just as consumers in the platform, but also people who can contribute information back into the platform. So we really kind of think of that data sharing collaboration part as being a real key of what we try to accomplish with ArcGIS. It's also a system of insight, so you can mix and match different information. You can ask intelligent questions of your data and get intelligent answers back. So there was a lot of new products that we even have a product called Insights. We like to think that that's pretty self-explanatory. You can build new insight, get new views into your information just by presenting it in new and creative ways. So we also integrate all types of data. Throughout the years, anything that becomes a standard in any kind of data management, we like to provide either a connector or a direct read capability into ArcGIS. And one of the examples of that is the partnership that we have with Autodesk. This was just announced, a few months ago, and it's already really starting to bear fruit. We've had the ability for a while to read AutoCAD drawings directly into ArcGIS Pro. Now we actually have the ability to read Revit files into ArcGIS Pro. So you can see, if we look at that a little bit deeper, our relationship with AutoCAD goes back a little ways, and on the ArcGIS Indoors team, obviously, this is something very close, near and dear to my heart. So you can use AutoCAD in a number of different ways. You can use it as a visualization tool. You can convert it into geodatabase information, and then also export geodatabase information out to CAD as well. And one touch point for this relationship has always been ArcGIS for AutoCAD. For those of you that are not familiar with this allows CAD shops to continue to use AutoCAD and then to bring in geospatial information through this plugin from the portal and use it as a frame of reference for the work that they do in CAD, to add a real-world coordinate system if there's not one already in there. It's a really useful tool. And the next step in this progression is the relationship between BIM and GIS. So we consider BIM a very complementary technology to GIS in a lot of different ways, and we've tried to illustrate that in this drawing, where it's kind of a circular, one feeds the other, kind of an idea with BIM. So you might use GIS for the work that you do in-house for planning and running scenarios, making decisions, and for your capital expenditure projects, the actual construction projects, BIM is really strong in that area. So we'd like to think that GIS can feed into the BIM ecosystem. Once you get through with some of the work you're doing in BIM, you can feed that information right back into the GIS. So now we're going to look at the team that I work on, ArcGIS Indoors. I'm pretty excited that it's actually a team now and not a virtual team anymore. That's actually kind of big news for me. So this is the ArcGIS platform actually in action. So what I've presented to this point, we'll see how we have applied that to mapping indoor spaces. And the reality is that people's expectations of facilities are changing. It's not just an IBM Selectric on a desk anymore with a filing cabinet. People come to work and they have expectations. We heard this morning about the number of devices that college students bring to the university now, and that number is only going to go up with the advent of the Internet of Things. We have a lot of interconnected data points, and no matter who is using the space, their expectations have changed. So if it's a student at a university or an employee in the physical plant, a real estate professional, somebody who's interested in public safety. The reality is these people already have access to tons of data. And that can be from a number of different touch points. So they have all these different systems that specialize in one thing. But one of the problems, especially in the built environment, is there's really no way to kind of index these things together and to tie all this information in. So what we strive to do with ArcGIS Indoors is to take all these strengths that we just talked about with the ArcGIS platform, the ability to bring in all these various and sundry data sets and index them by a geospatial location so that you can actually bring them all together and to start to ask those intelligent questions and get those intelligent answers. So whether it's portfolio management or operations or asset management, it could be something as simple as wayfinding. If you're an employee and you travel to an office across the world, in a place you've never been, with a native language that you don't speak, it would be really nice if you could figure out, on your device that you carry with you, how to get to the meeting location where you're supposed to meet that CEO of that company, specifically how to get to the building, and then once you're in the building, how to get to the meeting room where that meeting is taking place. That can really set you at ease, especially if you're jet lagged, you're trying to get to this location, you're already stressed out enough about the meeting. Just help somebody out to get into that location. So, that's just one example. And we do that in a number of different ways. And a lot of these are just platform solutions that we've applied to Indoors. And that can be something like the operations dashboard. The operations dashboard, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, this is something that's built into the portal. It's built into ArcGIS Online. It's built into Enterprise. So we kind of, as we've gone through this process of creating ArcGIS Indoors, we kind of stop from time to time and say, hey, I wonder if so-and-so part of the platform works. And, Ops Dashboard is just one of those examples. We took a 2D map for an indoor space. We fed it through the Operations Dashboard configuration utility. And lo and behold, we got this great dashboard that could show things as simple as vacancy. We could also see what is the utilization rate of space inside of a building and see it in a way that's really easy to digest with the dials or charts or whatever you want to put in there. So the different parts of the platform can be used with ArcGIS Indoors. This is not some one-off thing that we built off to the side. It's actually a core part of Esri technology. So one of the other things too is, I wanted to reiterate this slide. Bringing all these different data sources together into the platform, it works for indoor spaces too. Wherever we can, we're trying to leverage that technology and bring in things like imagery or point cloud data. We have a lot of partners and a lot of other people in this space have these carts. They can run around through your buildings and they generate all kinds of great information. It can be a point cloud, photorealistic. I mean, they can track things like the cellular reception throughout the building. You can generate all kinds of really useful information, data sets, and the ArcGIS platform can bring those things in. We can also bring in feeds from real-time sources, the Internet of Things. We can leverage different parts of the platform to feed all this stuff into ArcGIS Indoors. Now, once it's all in there, we obviously want to get the information into the hands of those who need it, and we do that through applications. We have both native and browser-based applications. The client applications we built in Android and iOS, and we can take advantage of the sensors on the device. Smartphones are pretty amazing, little jam-packed pieces of technology. They've got accelerometers and GPS chips and all that other kind of stuff. So, basically, we want to take advantage of that, and we can do that through a native application. We also take advantage of parts of the platform. For those of you that are familiar with a mobile map package, using a native device application with a mobile map package, I don't have to be connected to Wi-Fi or wireless. I can be completely disconnected and still access all the maps that I need, and that also works with ArcGIS Indoors. Since it's part of the portal, you can decide what information goes to which users. So you can have a public version of the application, and then if someone from the physical plant logs in with the username and password, they would see a different set of information. So it's really up to you as the data manager to decide which part of the organization sees what data. We also have some innovative data authoring tools, so you can create those different maps and scenes and map packages. You can make those available in groups that people have access to in the portal. And we try to just leverage as much as we can. Now, looking at kind of a conceptual view of the system, We have lots of different ways to bring in third-party information. This could be, employee or customer information from a CRM system. It could be work order from a system like IBM Maximo. It could be any of the, we support a really wide range. Basically, if you have a REST endpoint to that information, and especially if you have something like an office location or some sort of an internal address, that's a geospatial index. We can use that location information to tie it into the GIS data and bring all that together and then make it available through those client applications we were just talking about. So we have a web application that is both 2D and 3D. We'll be able to get that into the hands of people who need it. The Indoors mobile application runs on iOS and Android. And we also have, obviously, desktop support for ArcGIS Pro. And eventually, we're going to try to provide a way for people who don't have a lot of these technologies to be able to still create an indoor floor plan. Because one of the things we find when we talk to new customers is that one of the big struggles is actually having data for indoor spaces. So if you have CAD drawings or a BIM model, I mean, you're really in luck. Most people, well, I wouldn't say most, a lot of people just don't have anything. We've talked to customers before and asked them, well, what data do you have for your indoor spaces? And they say, well, we have the evacuation map by the doors. Well, really, you kind of don't have anything at that point. So, it's a big hurdle for people to get over. And we want to provide this floor plan editing tool for people to be able to create that and curate that information. Now, really quickly, I'm going to point out one thing here, the indoor positioning systems. GPS doesn't work inside of buildings. I mean, a lot of us know that already. We've been working with several partners and looking at this technology to try to figure out how can we overcome that problem? How can we give people the blue dot experience inside of a building? And we're working with several partners to provide this. We can use Bluetooth or BLE beacons. We're also working with several people who provide Wi-Fi. It's not triangulation, it's more fingerprinting. The technology behind that is pretty interesting. We partner with Apple and also Cisco for their technologies in that area. And something that's particularly fascinating to me is the idea of smart lighting. Light bulbs just aren't light bulbs anymore. They're jam-packed with little sensors and chips and all sorts of stuff going on. And the technology behind this is really pretty fascinating. So we're working with Acuity Brands on supporting indoor positioning based on smart lighting. And the neat thing behind that is the accuracy with smart lighting is like within a few inches. And that's in X, Y, and Z. So that's pretty exciting for a lot of different reasons. And basically, just got a little bit more to talk about here, kind of where the rubber meets the road. I mentioned now we have an ArcGIS Indoors team. This is an official Esri product now. Very exciting news. So the big question is, when's it going to come out? And of course, the other big question is how much it's going to cost. I can't answer the second one for you. I'm going to have to take the approach that we just don't know yet how much it's going to cost. We're still trying to figure that out. But the actual release, we're looking at a 1.0 release in the fourth quarter of this year. And the last few meetings that we've had, we're definitely on pace for that. So knock on wood, barring any major problems, we should be on pace for around November. And what we're going to support in that basically is we're kind of focusing on the occupant and the map maker for the first release. We want to help people kind of get their indoor maps dialed in, get them created, get that database built, and get hooked into other information, and just be able to see that stuff on a map. We want to try to help get people over that hump initially with the first release, and then we'll add stuff in a subsequent release. So another thing we're looking at incorporating is anonymous occupant tracking. And I know that sounds a little scary, but there's a lot of really good business reasons why we want to do that. And the idea here is we just want to track devices and how they move through the indoor space. So that can give you a lot of information you can build up over time about how people actually use your space. So as an architect, that's what you do. You design spaces to be easily accessible and navigable by humans. But you can design all you want, but when people start using it, they may surprise you in the way that they move through spaces. So you can start to prioritize where you want to put your work, where you want to put your capital expenditures based on where people are actually using the building. And this is something a lot of us have really, a lot of customers have talked to us about and said, hey, this is something we really need. So then what's after that? After the first release, we're going to start kind of expanding out. We want to enable editing on mobile. So currently we're going to support 311 through Survey 123, if you're familiar with that. The applications, anybody will be able to submit a problem ticket. In the subsequent releases, we also want people to be able to edit data. If they find a problem, they can go ahead and fix that problem in the data set and check that back in through the mobile app. We want to provide that basic floor plan editor. We want to provide connections to external data sets in a more kind of out-of-the-box way. We want to build connectors and things where people can plug right into these third-party data sets and bring them right in. We also want to build on top of the BIM direct read functionality that's now in ArcGIS Pro 2.2. We want to incorporate that a little bit more in the data creation and curation and kind of help complete that circle diagram that I showed earlier for indoors data. And also we want to provide identified occupant tracking. And this is another kind of the next step beyond what we want to do for anonymous tracking, where you can actually, assign devices to an individual person. You may be able to see how that person navigates through their day, not just from a big brother perspective, but if you assign someone 12 work orders and, they're busting their hump in the field and they can only get through 8 of them, that affects how you're going to apply that for the next day. So with that, I'll be here all week. So if hopefully I've stimulated some questions that you guys might have. If you do, feel free to find us in the back corner back there. And other than that, again, it's been a pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me.